This week we are joined by the voice of the UFC, John Gooden. We're also joined by Stevie Ray's head coach, James Doolan, and we give our picks and predictions of UFC 230.
Derrick, what's your issue with Daniel?
He disrespected Popeye's chicken on a commercial for years ago.
I've never had Popeye's chicken, Rob.
Either have I.
Yeah.
And I've been to America.
It's like...
Twice.
I presume it's just like KFC. Who knows? Derrick Lewis just letting us know why he wants to beat the face of Daniel Cormier. So thanks, Derrick. Welcome along to Obviously Fight Talk, episode 125. We have a packed show. We are joined by the voice of the UFC, John Gooden, just back from Canada.
Nice. Moncton.
Moncton.
To be specific.
Well, it sounds like a fish, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. Fried Moncton.
Yeah, it does.
Jesus, does. That sounds good.
We're also joined even by Stevie Ray's head coach, James Doolan. We look back at the week in MMA history. 8 years ago, we look back, Rob.
Yep.
We preview fights this weekend,
Yep.
2:30. We do our picks. We're joined with Sean just off camera. We'll be getting involved. But we've been building up the last few weeks about big announcements.
Yes.
Big news and obviously Fight Talk.
Yes.
People have been messages going, what's the big news? If you've been watching the show over the last few weeks, you will have noticed that Noel was in desperate need of a haircut.
Oh.
Yeah. Midlife crisis land was coming.
Yeah.
MMA Coopers is just being warned. The big news from obviously Fight Talk is Carl Doran is back. Noel shaved his head. It's bad decision, folks, I know.
No. Looks
Comments
good.
below. No.
Looks good. Nice announcement, though. We built that up too much, I think.
People are probably expecting more.
Probably expecting more. Shit.
Yeah.
You know what it was? You
Noel
did.
got a haircut.
It was your delivery.
Yeah.
It was your delivery of the haircut thing.
I wasn't on point, wasn't I?
No.
Great stuff. The real news, folks, that we have been teasing is obviously Fight Talk episode 125 will be the final episode on this channel, on YouTube's obviously Fight Talk channel. This will be the last one. The reason being is obviously Fight Talk is moving home. We are going from a council house,
Yes.
to a nice fancy posh residence. That probably makes no sense to half our listeners. We're upgrading, folks.
Yeah. From an apartment to a house.
We made an offer we simply couldn't refuse.
That was decent.
Was that alright?
Yeah, it was alright.
Wasn't attempting that
No.
either. That was just came to me there.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was good.
You may have guessed we've had a reoccurring guest on Rob's live chats.
Yes.
Jason, I believe his name is.
Jason.
From MMA On Point. The lads are a hugely successful MMA channel.
Yes.
They
make some great videos.
love their stuff that they do, and the lads have reached out to us and offered us and want us to join MMA On Point. So we thought, yeah, fuck it, why not?
Yeah.
Nothing else to do.
Yeah, why not?
No, but we are moving. Obviously, Fight Talk is now moving from. This is our last show on this channel, and we're moving. Delighted we are moving, and again, a huge opportunity for our show. Moving to work with Tom and Jason on MMA On Point. We are going to become the MMA On Point, obviously, Fight Talk podcast. It's going to be the same show.
Same show.
It's going to be us, but we're not allowed to pick anything that's on our show.
They're forcing us to talk about stuff that we don't want to talk about.
That's not
basically puppets. No,
Irish.
Yeah, no,
puppets.
same show. We've been basically speaking about this for about a month now, maybe a little bit more,
longer,
a month and a half.
7 weeks,
about moving over. They want to start a podcast. They were honoured to think that they chose us and they wanted us to do it for them. But the whole reason for it is not just because it's a bigger channel, which is great. It's great for us. But we also are looking forward to working with the lads. They're really, really smart guys, know their stuff about MMA, and they're also helping us out and giving us obviously the bigger platform, but they're giving us some more equipment that we can use to upgrade the show. And this is basically all about upgrading the show
to get better.
Making it bigger and better.
We are going to be producing very similar content to what we're currently doing.
Yeah,
but it's like you sad aren't around, so we're juicing up. We're juicing up.
Oh, cycling.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's great stuff.
It's decent.
But really looking forward to it. Like we said, it's been in the works a while now.
Yeah.
It was tough to sort of keep a secret, but
Yeah.
fear not, it will be released. Our shows will be released at the same time, just on MMA on Points channel now. So
Same
we're looking
audio.
forward to it. We got excellent stuff lined up.
We're going to be working for bigger guests, bigger names, the big names that we already got before in the past.
We have a great first show lined up.
We have a good first show. We have a great first show. I was saying great first show. So that's next Tuesday. And as well, if you listen on audio only, there should be a new audio feed. Just search for obviously Fight Talk. There'll probably be 2 for a while until it all migrates over, but be good.
I would, even if you're listening on audio now, right? I'm putting a lot of pressure because there's still some equipment to arrive. But if you're listening on audio now, next week, treat yourself. Watch it.
Yeah, it's going to look cool.
It's going to look different.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have terrible posture. The graphics are going to be different.
Yes.
Gone are these graphics. We are going to look, although I love these graphics,
Yeah.
this is another decision that MMA and Point are pulling us away. The bloody Hitlers they are. We're going under their banner. So we have to look and sound like MMA on Point.
Yeah.
So next week will probably be, a little bit of a different intro. It may not be Derrick Lewis talking about his balls being above average temperature.
Well, if he wins, maybe.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really looking forward to working with the guys. All joking aside, it's a huge opportunity for obviously Fight Talk. We have spoken numerous times about sharing our content. It really helps us get us out there. We have no backing behind us. We have nothing. It's just me and Rob and now Sean pushing the show and our listeners pushing the show and talking to people about it and getting our name out there. So this allows us to have a greater audience. If they like us, we could do episode 1 and be like, who the fuck are these guys? You know what I mean? This is awful.
Yeah.
But it's a huge opportunity for our show, and we're looking forward to producing similar content, but just at a hopefully
higher quality.
Higher
hopefully.
quality.
Yeah. Put a lot of work into it.
Yeah. First show's a cracker, but you know what? We're gonna end with a bang as well.
Yeah.
So our yearly anniversary, let's start with that. Almost a year to the day that we first spoke with John Gooden, one of the nicest men involved in mixed martial arts. Only arrived home from Canada.
Yeah.
Bags still unpacked.
A builder of houses.
A builder of houses.
Caller of fights.
A producer of shows.
Gentleman.
John Gooden, ladies and gentlemen. I say ladies and gentlemen, I mean gentlemen. Apart from that one listener, that female, at one time.
Comment below, let us know who you are.
She was in.
That sounds creepy.
She was only in it for Rob. Yeah. Rob's exceedingly good looks.
Once we bring Sean in.
Yeah. Skyrocket.
Yes.
2 females.
Double. 100%, Yeah. Statistically.
Yeah. Okay. John Gooden. So moving on now, and obviously Fight Talk, delighted to say, we set it off air and had a little giggle about it, a year anniversary, and we're joined once again by one of the voices of the UFC, Mr. John Gooden. So John, welcome back to obviously Fight Talk.
Thank you very much. This is the way to do it. You need to tell people where they need to be on dates so they know where they're going, who's going to be there. So this time, like Halloween, every year, this is a date.
Yeah, there we go. And we'll hold you to that.
You will
now.
do it next year.
Yeah, you'll be out trick or treating, and your phone will be ringing a Skype call. And you go, what the? Oh, it's obviously Fight Talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we should have confirmed it. Let's delve into the fights at the weekend. We were in Canada. We're in Moncton. I fully tuned in. I have to be honest. I tuned in, fully expecting to hear yourself and Dan Hardy on the call because I knew you were there, but you weren't on the call.
No, I was backstage for Fox.
Yeah, how did you find that experience? Was it something different for you, or how did you find it?
Yeah, it's been a little while since I did it. I think the last time I was backstage for Fox was when Stipe Miocic won the title. So that was a cool event. 45,000 Brazilians, big city, tropical city. To Moncton, Canada, which was the high street there. The main road was smaller than my town where I live, way smaller than St Albans and Watford, which are like cities. And I actually walked to the arena from our hotel in like 5 minutes. It was snowing as well, a little bit, not like nice snow, like really, really bad snow, sleet. It was a hell of it was a really interesting trip because One, for me, I forgot what it was like to do the reporter role, and the pressure's off. And I mean that in a sense that when I'm preparing for commentary, every single second I'm on the ground can be used to research. I've found things out when I've gotten on the bus. You end up sitting next to a fighter or a coach, and because you've kind of got them stuck in 10, 15 minutes, they can't escape, then you can sometimes get some really interesting little bits of information. So, but really with the reporter role, you have nothing to say nothing to do until the fights have happened, and that's when it triggers an interview. So it's a bit different, and people would like, this is weird for you. Normally you're panicking and your skin's a different color and all the rest of it. So it was a nice change. And listen, I love my role as a commentator when it presents itself, but I really enjoy challenging myself as a broadcaster. So getting to do studio shows with Dan, getting to do backstage reporting stuff for Fox. Then, of course, I'd like to do my own more long-form interviews. I produce a lot of content for the UFC, as in, like, I'm behind the scenes coordinating shoots, main event shoots, countdown shoots over in Europe. So all of this stuff is hopefully rounding me out, and I can be a better presenter, be a kinder presenter to producers. And yeah, I think it, like you guys will know, the more you do stuff, the easier it becomes. And I just think it's good for the CV. But listen, any way I can participate in mixed martial arts, I'm grateful and I enjoy it. If I do it for the UFC as well, that's a massive privilege.
I wonder if you agree with this. We have James Doolan on later on, and I was just scrolling through his Facebook page just to see what he was talking about after the fight. Of course, he's Stevie Ray's coach. And he said about Moncton that it was the strangest town or city he's been to for a fight show. It seems like an ideal place to hide in witness protection.
That's a brilliant way to describe it. It was a very cute town. I don't think I've ever been somewhere where the people were that nice, like super nice. Here's the thing. When I was walking through, or an example I should say, I was walking through security, put all the stuff, separated it out, so that bit's good, and then you walk through the detector. And as I walked through, the alarm went off. And the guy sort of said, "Stop there, sir. If you can turn around for me and look at the lights. Nothing's wrong. You've been selected randomly. If I could please ask you to just take a couple of steps over here. I'm just going to do X, Y, and Z. Do you mind stepping into that scanner for me? It will only be a few seconds. And while you're there, if you could just raise your arms above your head. That's perfect. Hold that for me for just a few seconds. Oh, I can't thank you enough, sir. Please step out. You're absolutely fine. Have a great set." And I'm like, what is this? He was talking to me. I was smiling, and Dan Hardy was coming through the other side, and he's sort of looking at me like, "Why are you smiling so much?" Like, these people are the nicest people ever.
Brilliant.
Like, immigration people at folk at airports typically are moody as hell, intimidating. I feel like I'm guilty of something I've never done before I've even stepped forward. So I'm going to add a couple of layers to what Doolan said. And we went out for dinner. Jimmy Smith, Brennan Fitzgerald, a couple of producers. Dan wasn't there. So we had this great meal, and I'd gotten to know Jimmy a little bit. I'd never really met him before, and like hearing some of his stories from working with M1 to Bellator and beyond. It was really, really cool. We're walking back. It's freezing cold. I've got gloves on, shuffling along, trying to dodge the ice that's on the pavement or sidewalk, depending on where you're from. And all of a sudden, there's this car with its music on way too loud for what it should be at this hour. Maybe let's say it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And then we get a lot of whooping, and it's a car full of chicks. So we're like, okay, that's a bit weird in this here town. And then the car comes back around, this time, music on, whooping chicks, booby shots, each and every one of them outside of the car, showing us. And it was just like, what is this place? This is absolutely bonkers. They came back around again, did the same thing. So 3 drive-bys, twice with the nipple shot, nearly took our eyes out. And that was just on a couple of minutes between the restaurant and our hotel. Everything's a couple of minutes, actually, if you're in Moncton. but I like that. I like that analogy that it would be, it's the best place to be if you're in witness protection.
that definitely happened because they mistaked Jimmy Smith for Joe Rogan, as he'll attest to every time we speak to him.
Between us, when I was sat across eating dinner from him, I'm like, he really does look like he could be Joe Rogan. Yeah. Like that could be Joe Rogan right there.
We've been lucky. Jimmy's been on with us 3-4 times. He's been on with us a good bit, and it's something that we brought up. And he says he deals with it literally every day, every show he covers. It's something he deals with. So I'm sure he just has. He should do what is a Matt Damon and thing. Just sign it. Just sign the other person's name.
Yeah.
So you were saying you have to think on your feet, and you have to, obviously doing the commentary and then doing interviews are completely different, but the show that you record with Dan Hardy, how much work goes into that? Because we only see the finished article, and I know myself from preparing for shows and doing things like that, the amount of work that goes in, and people just see the polished article, but just give us a little peek behind the curtain on how much work yourself and Dan go through before it is produced and put up.
Yeah, well, Dan does, obviously, Dan goes into this, he's a very unique individual. He's obsessed with all of this stuff, and I think he's put this out there before, but just to give you an idea about Dan, he will buy gloves according to his favorite fighter. He will put those gloves on, and then he will hit a bag, and the gloves allow him to helps him embody the fighter that he's trying to emulate when he's hitting the bag. Wow. So just put that into perspective. That's what you're dealing with when you're talking about Dan Hardy and things like that. So I'm not quite to that level. But what I like to do is obviously watch all the fights. Fight Pass has this great button called slow-mo. So I will typically watch fights that we are analysing in slow-mo, and I'll try and spot those patterns as well. Look, I just do that bit for fun, really, because essentially you guys don't want to hear the analysis from me anyway, and I'm like a blue belt and Dan's a black belt in it. But what it allows me to do is challenge Dan when we get together in those meetings, so that we can add layers, change things, sharpen up, and give him new ideas perhaps, because obviously, again, two different minds come at things from different ways. But what's important for me is to look at all of the other aspects apart from the fight stuff, the specific in-fight stuff. What else could be affecting this fight? So when you look at the Conor-Khabib fight, then you've got a whole bunch of stuff, which again does play into inside the octagon and what we're trying to do, because we're analysing the fight and the psychological aspects there are a big part of it. So that's I will look at that. I will look at all the interviews like I would for commentary. But yeah, you've got to watch the fights. We then get together the day before we record, and we're not allowed to be in the same room as one another until about 5 or 6 o'clock, because apparently we just burn time, and everything then runs later. And unlike Dan and I, other people want to go home and eat and spend time with others. We're quite happy to talk about that fight, and sometimes we go off on weird tangents, but yeah, they've stopped us getting together before about 5 p.m. and then we go through stuff for a few hours. Dan goes back home, I go back home, or Dan goes to the hotel because where we record in London, and we put together the playlists, we watch them again, and I try and find ways in which I can challenge Dan during the show, and sometimes that really does happen on the fly and organically, but we do have a structure. Obviously it's a TV show, so it's not the Wild West, and we've got to be careful.
Do you find out as well that adds to your chemistry both in commentary then as well, because you see it on other broadcasts, without naming each commentator, where somebody will say something almost a challenge to either the colour or the third commentator. Do you find that's the same with you and Dan, that all this allows your chemistry to grow and be one of the best chemistries, in my opinion, in the game?
Thank you. Yeah, of course. And chemistry, I think... So here's an example. I worked a 3-man booth for the first time for the UFC with Paul Felder. And, some of the feedback was, you were throwing to Dan a lot more than you were to Paul. And that's not that I didn't have confidence on what Paul was saying. It's not, and I don't think it was necessarily because I'm used to working with Dan. I think sometimes what it is I've spoken to Dan about so many aspects of the game that I absolutely know that what I'm throwing the ball to him for, he is going to give the fans something really good, something that piqued my interest. Because we talk, and when we get into specifics for Inside the Octagon, there might be a certain sequence where I've discovered as a fan and a practitioner of martial arts, but not at his level, that a certain setup works for a certain reason. And then we can link it back to not only our show, but another fight in the UFC that people will be familiar with. And I just think that adds layers to the experience. Does that make sense? So you sort of see something playing out in one fight. I recognise that. Dan and I have spoken about it on camera, off camera, so I know what he's going to say. But it allows us to make comparisons between fighters and fights and set things up so that we develop our understanding, both technically or whatever else it might be.
Makes perfect sense. It also sounds like Dan Hardy's like the Daniel Day-Lewis of MMA analysts. Yeah. He's like a method actor, but for analysts. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, Dan is, remember, he's got a degree in fine art. So he's got a very creative mind, and he likes to draw things and represent things in a different way than I would. I'm a sort of words guy. So yeah, he was always, I think he always looks at creative ways of trying to represent, and that's just how his mind works, so he has to work a certain way. I'd never thought of something like that, but I've seen his Triple G gloves, and he's bought the Pride gloves as well, and it allows him to really understand, as a fighter, when you start practicing certain movement patterns, you understand it, you understand the limitations of it, why it works. So if you add things visually as well, then it's just that revision and the way in which you can commit things to memory and be more comfortable with what you're trying to explain.
Yeah, as well, a quick plug for Dan as well. His book, I read his book. I'd recommend it to anyone. It's like what you were saying. You really see how he thinks and how he lives his life daily by reading his book, and I would recommend it to any MMA fan. One thing you were saying earlier as well, John, is when you get stuck beside a fighter, you tend to pick their brain. I noticed a certain Mr. Kavanagh had shared the plane ride home with you. Did you use that time wisely, as John Kavanagh came out with a post that was directed at an article on MMA fighting about Artem Lobov? There's a jokingly manner goes on around about Artem calling him the GOAT and everything that goes with that. But it was good to see a coach defend his fighter. I don't know if you've seen the post that John had made since.
I have not. No, I've sadly gotten straight back from working, and I've been straight in the house that I'm building at the moment. Sorry, I've lost my power source for my laptop. So this is why you're getting a tour.
Lovely.
Of the Goodens here.
We're on cribs.
See, look, I haven't even. So that's just so that you know I'm not slacking. These are my bags from Canada. I haven't even unpacked. Because I had to go straight down and finish off matters at the house. So I have not read the article. I was with John on the plane, and it was probably more enlightening for me to be next to Mr. Kavanagh than it was for him to be next to me. Hence the please move me thing on Instagram. But yeah, John's just one of the most thoughtful guys in this sport. He's super experienced. He's been through it all with, the biggest star of the sport. So, I take what he says very seriously.
What did you think of Artem's performance against Michael Johnson?
I actually thought that he fought really well, and he's up against a super tough guy. I mean, that was a bigger fight. It was a bigger fight in terms of rankings and stature than the Tuhugov fight. It's not a bigger fight for Artem personally, as in on a personal level, but he's got to think of his career as well. So I thought he fought well. Again, I was interviewing people during the time that fight was going on, so I haven't gone back and watched every exchange. He's very tough. He was upset with the decision, but I think that Johnson took the fight. he just has this style. It's very entertaining. Does it win fights? You know, does he consider the scoring criteria and fight accordingly? Maybe not. But then that's what makes him Artem. It's just one of those. There are plenty of fighters like that. Sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it goes against you. But it would be wiser to fight more strategically.
What was your thoughts on the main event, Anthony Smith getting a big win?
Wow. I think I asked him after the fight, you know, you said that you were going to try and take the heat off of him early, but did it nearly go wrong? Yeah. And he said, no, that was kind of how it was planned out, which is a very risky strategy. You know, the percentages at that level are so small. It's kind of one false move and you're dead, which is an unfortunate phrase to use, but you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
And Özdemir has freaky power. He just does. But Smith's so experienced. He's been through so much in his career, and it's incredible that we're talking about him like this now. You know, I never thought that we were going to be talking about Anthony Smith as a contender for the light heavyweight title, you know, a year ago. So he is a super interesting guy. And what a great fight. What a warrior. I don't know how he fares against the guys that are ahead of him, but he's just taken out the number 2 guy. It's very impressive. Very impressive.
What was your thoughts on the rest of the card? Did anybody really stand out to you?
Yeah, I'm just going to pull up the card so that I can be more accurate. But a man that comes to mind is Dom Madge, a guy from South Africa who walked into our fighter meetings with a confidence about him, and he backed it up. I mean, it was a beautiful knockout, which I really enjoyed. I thought Arjun Bulla looked really good as well. He seems to have made some great strides in his game. A very well-rounded performance, and in the heavyweight division, a couple of big wins. I mean, Marcelo Gomes, just so powerful. I was there in Brazil when he debuted, and I was very impressed. So he shut him down really good. Who else looked good? I thought Sean Strickland did a good job against Nordin Taleb. Always a tough guy to fight. Nasrat Haqparast. Yeah. He's such a talent. Yeah. And as a 23-year-old kid who I interact with him quite a bit, kind of offline. I've commentated quite a couple of his fights now for the UFC, and he's a really personable kid, and I wish him a lot of success. I thought he took a lot of risks that we haven't seen him take before. He got caught out. He told me he broke his hand in the first round. Wow. So he fought that whole fight, literally, the lion's share of the fight with a broken hand. So he's shown himself new things that he's able to get through in the fight. So I think he's got a really, really good future ahead of him. What else did we see there? I mean, Michael Johnson, we know how good he is. Misha Serkinov, one of the more unlucky guys, I think, in the light heavyweight division. He's made 2 small errors that have cost him 2 big fights with Teixeira and Özdemir. So it was good to see that he got this one done. It looked like he'd made massive changes when in reality as I said, they were very small adjustments that needed to be made. But whatever you need to do psychologically to get yourself ahead, he's clearly done that. Looked really good. Serkinov he's a very, very good fighter. He's right up there for me. A couple more opportunities. I think he'll probably try and get Özdemir next. He really wants that one back. If he puts him away, then he's right in the mix as well.
Lower down on the card, we've Chris Fishgold make his debut, and the long-awaited debut, and it really looked like he'd started the fight, Fleming, and it was like he was chasing the victory. It looked in some way, but you got to say, he just stayed so calm and composed. It was almost like he knew Fishgold would start this way, and he could see the octagon experience, I think, in that bout.
He's so difficult to put away. Most other candidates in that weight division that came under that sort of fire would have buckled. And that's no disrespect to anyone, but Fishy's good guy, always round, throws hard, but if he gets his hands on you, then you're fighting to stay in that battle. But Cater just was, as you said, so composed, strategically very good, but more than that, and for me, just so tough.
Yeah.
So damn tough, and that got him through another good win. But Fishgold will be back. He's all week. He was so excited to be there. Just nothing but a happy man to have around during fight week. He is the more quietly spoken one from Liverpool when you compare him to some of his friends from that region that are fighting for the UFC or Cage Warriors. And it was just really good to see him get his chance, as you say. Big record, legitimate record. He's got a bright future ahead, no doubt. This is just a speed hump. Kate is a tough guy. Tough first fight in the UFC for sure.
We'll get your thoughts on a couple of things before we let you go. You've been around MMA for a really, really long time, and you probably don't see many new things. We've seen a lot of things happen, but new things don't really happen. But something new happened. Demetrius Johnson and Ben Askren were traded in something that just doesn't happen in MMA these days. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if the UFC have put any official stuff out, but I have listened to a couple of podcasts while I was working today. So the management and those involved seem to think it's happening. So, listen, I work for mixed martial arts. I got into this, and I'm probably stealing some of what Dan said to me over the week, but it is true as well for me. Like this is the sport that I was enjoying competing in and had friends in, and I wanted to represent those friends, the sport, etc. So that's where my loyalties lie. And then, of course, with the UFC, they essentially pay my bills now. I don't really do much for anyone else, and I love the organisation and what it is doing for the sport and everyone in it. So, but from that, you see people that sometimes they need something else in their life. And so to see Demetrius Johnson, who is one of the best to ever do it, he's such a positive individual for the sport of mixed martial arts. To see him want to move away and find a new place, I'm super happy for him. To also see the sport progress. One thing that used to annoy me when I was with Cage Warriors was that there seemed to be a lot of battle from Cage Warriors people and real diehard fans of Cage Warriors and what they would say about BAMMA and UFC MMA. And I'm not saying that they were always necessarily wrong in their stance. However, we are a small sport. More than that, the UK is small, and Ireland. Why are we going after one another all the time when we need to stand together sometimes against these other sports and the people that don't like our sport? So to see the UFC and ONE FC, however close or far apart that was, the fact that they did this deal is big for the sport. It shows cooperation. It's showing that there is life after UFC for those that are no longer wanted or want to look elsewhere, which will come back around for the UFC, absolutely. So, yeah, I think it's really positive. I like it. I think it's exciting. It gives us all new things to talk about. We can start, fantasizing about other ways in which this might work going forward. So, we get to see Ben Askren and look what he's done in the last few days. He's kicked up a stink. And, I think it's cool. As long as everyone's happy, which it sounds like everyone has come out of this deal happy. DJ, Ben, the management companies, and then the two promotions. So, let's celebrate it.
This first thing you're saying about fantasy matchups was the first thing I said to Rob coming into work. Turned around and said, so if Bader beats Fedor, are we going to see the Bellator champ against the UFC champ and Daniel Cormier? And I'm like, it would be a cool little thing if
they could do it.
If you could swap around and even loan them out for a fight or two to see these potential cross promotion things. And I fully agree with what you're saying about Cage Warriors and BAMMA. BAMMA don't look to be in a good place at the moment, while Cage Warriors are booming at the moment. So I do think people need to get behind the sport as one and not just pick a promotion and go, that's my promotion, let's go with that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
just as well, a couple other points as well. We're going to get to see Gunnar Nelson back at UFC 231 as he's confirmed to fight Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Obviously coming back off that loss in July of 2017 against Ponzinibbio with the eye pokes. Are we excited to see Gunny back in there?
Always. He's such a welcomed addition to the UFC roster and the welterweight division. I mean, he's a guy that I've spent a bit of time with. As I said, I do some producing, so I've been out to Iceland a couple of times and I've been in his company. Beyond that, he's been in SBG camps for Conor, etc. So I might have seen him in Dublin. He's a really nice guy. His dad is an absolute gentleman within the sport. He's always trying to help the sport of mixed martial arts, not just in Iceland, but beyond. So there are certain people that you want to see have success. They're good guys, and I say guys, gender neutral. And honestly, I've never had a bad word to say about Gunny. He's a positive impact on this sport, and to see him come back, to get his opportunity to express himself with his very unique style, the fans are going to love it. So yeah, good to see that he's put his injury woes behind him and whatever else that might have been holding him back. And I'm looking forward to it. He always has me on the edge of the seat.
The last bit of news we'll leave you because we thank you for your time. This is again almost fantasy, but Twitter handle Team Dagestan, who had originally confirmed Conor and Khabib, are now saying that Khabib versus GSP is in the works. Do we think it's the right fight, and how bad do you feel for Tony Ferguson?
Yeah, I mean, Tony, he's an unlucky guy, isn't he? Yeah. And that is the most unlucky matchup for both of them, because I'm sure that somewhere in there, Khabib wants to fight Tony, and it's in his head that it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. So that's tricky. Yeah, I like it. I like the matchup with GSP. I know why you would make it. Yeah. And it's the Tony fight can still exist beyond, the next 6 months. Can the fight with GSP exist beyond the next 6 months? It's just, we just know that it's not going to be there as long as the Tony fight would be. Does that make it right? Probably not. Should it be Tony? Probably. So yeah, you feel bad for him, but listen, GSP was my guy. He's the guy that I used to look up to in this sport for many reasons. He was the guy that I tried and failed to emulate in the gym, and I still look up to him whenever he jumps on some sort of podcast or releases something. I want to see what it is. I think he's a fantastic example for mixed martial arts. So to see him come back, despite his time away, I'm tuning in. Take my money, whoever it is. And what a matchup this would be as well with Khabib. Oh, amazing. God, that is mouth-watering.
Yeah, definitely is. What's next for you, John? And we'll let you unpack that
that bag. I've got a few things. I'm going to be doing some producing work this month, but bigger news than that is that I'm going to Beijing and to Adelaide. So it's a long trip. I think I'm away from home for a couple of weeks. We were talking before we went online. We both have 5-month-old daughters, so that's going to be challenging. More for my wife, I think, being here alone. But emotionally, it's tough being away from the baby. I don't get to see her so much because I'm doing this project, this construction project as well. But yeah, I'm really excited about going to China for the first time. Australia is arguably my favourite place on earth. So apart from home, so going there is always an absolute pleasure. Looking like some good fights are being made for both cards. I mean, I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed to have these opportunities, and I'm looking forward to this one, which will then see me out for the year apart from inside the octagon.
Brilliant, man. Look forward to hearing you on the call. Enjoy the rest of that year. Christmas with the new little girl. Enjoy that as well. Yeah. And we will talk to you next Halloween.
And next Halloween it is. Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks, Vinny, John. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
And there we have it. John Gooden, the voice of UFC. Rob's jumped up off his chair, so I presume that's where the edit ends.
What a graphic there.
So a return of an old favourite, Rob. this week in MMA history. And this one is looking back 8 years ago, where Dana White announced the monopolization of MMA continued to WEC merger. He announced this while talking to his good friend Ariel Helwani. Dana White announced that. Now, looking back, what I want to look at this is it was big for the MMA. Like WEC was seen as the feeder league, I suppose. Is that fair?
Yeah. Most of their weight classes would have been lower
level
than the UFC, but there was some crossover. They had welterweights at one point. I think they dissolved that earlier. Or maybe it's a little bit later, but then lightweight and featherweight was obviously big ones.
But like all their takeovers, Strikeforce jumps to mind, Pride, like that. Fighters had their success. Might argue the Pride guys didn't, but WEC had their success. A lot of success as well. Yeah. Like what you could argue, two of the biggest, what many people would be consider maybe best pound for pound at the time they would have been in the conversation was Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, absolutely.
Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah. It was a bit later for Uriah Faber, but you could still say he was definitely a big star. Yeah. But the thing that with WEC as well is that they done the exact same thing as they done with Strikeforce. It's almost their little test out. Remember they done the live shows with Goldie and Rogan on the call. Now, obviously, in Strikeforce, they didn't do that, but they brought some UFC guys over to face some Strikeforce guys, and that should have been the sign that was going to happen.
Yeah, we're just going to swallow you up.
Yeah, we're just going to swallow you.
We're just going to like a snake, just slowly eating you up and dissolving. But like, there's some great fights. They used to show WEC on Bravo back in the day.
Yeah.
On Sky.
Yeah, what a channel.
What a channel, indeed. But yeah, like the likes of the ones that stand out, like you got to talk about Jose Aldo. Was undefeated for so long, unbeaten in like 10 years, and a lot of his reign was in WEC. Of course, he literally kicked the fucking legs off most of his opponents. Uriah Faber stands out. But out of them, who was the biggest success? You got to think maybe Demetrius, is it?
Yeah, you gotta say Demetrius. And the weird thing about Demetrius was that he was only coming up in WEC. He was obviously seen as a prospect, but he was fighting out 135. There was no flyweight at the time.
Brad Pickett had a win over him.
And he kept bringing that up once Demetrius went on his run. But yeah, once he came into the UFC, he had that good fight with Dominic Cruz. Clearly undersized, but it was a good performance. Probably the toughest fight that Cruz had up until that point, I guess. Apart from his losses, was his more recent one. But yeah, you've got to say DJ, don't you?
Yeah, but like when you look at the other ones, like you've
loads.
You've Benson Henderson. The Showtime kick happened at WEC, and that was the start of Anthony Showtime Pettis.
Funny story. I watched that fight live, but I missed that fight because I fell asleep, and I woke up the next day.
So you contradict yourself in the one sentence.
Yeah.
I watched that fight live, but I fell asleep.
Do you know the way Dana White calls a fight event a fight? That's what I'm referring to.
No. Don't buy it.
All right.
And while doing some research for this, I was looking online, going, hey, with the big transfers and big moves, the most success. And FoxSports.com got in the banter. Great banter. I was scrolling down and it's like Anthony Pettis, number 3. So to give you the Fox Sports transfer, they had
number best transfers.
Yeah, the best ones over. Moves. Yeah, the best moves. Number 10, they had Cowboy Cerrone. Number 10, they had Gilbert Melendez, or number 9, Gilbert Melendez. Number 8, Carlos Condit. Number 7, Uriah Faber.
Is this from WEC?
Yeah. Dominic Cruz over was number 6.
Wow.
Ben Smooth Henderson, number 5.
That's a great show. He ruled the lightweight division for a while.
4, Demetrius Johnson. 3, Anthony Pettis. 2, Jose Aldo. And right now I'm thinking, who's number 1? Brittany Palmer.
All right.
Is number 1 on Fox Sports as the best over.
The height of journalism.
The height of journalism. They got it in the banter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good time. And Frank Mir used to commentate, didn't he?
He commentated for a while. He was brilliant,
Yeah.
Very, very good. And then Stefan Bonner commentated for a while, and he commentated on the Showtime kick one.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he was like, he just jumped off the cage like a ninja. That was his line, I think.
And I just see in the pictures I'm scrolling down there, Sean Shelby was heavily involved.
Yeah, he was the matchmaker. Yeah.
That's where he learned his
I love the blue cage as well. Don't know why. I just love the blue cage. And it was also a smaller cage, which made sense because they were smaller guys.
Smaller weight classes.
But I love when the UFC do that, when they have the small cage at the fight night events.
I don't like when they have a small cage and have like
a dog
heavyweights weight or something. Yeah, I don't like it.
Less room to move and avoid, less evasion.
I don't like it, and it's something I brought up as well when Rhys McKee was fighting Terry Brazier in York Hall.
Yeah.
They were in like a fucking shoebox, and it was like the worst size cage. If you were putting Rhys against Terry Brazier again, you'd be like, I'm not fighting him in a small cage. It was just, I don't like the small cage.
I like the small cage.
It's weird.
Yeah, maybe it's because you're a larger man and I'm average.
A bigger
height.
gentleman.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of saying that to me. Thanks, Rob. But that was MMA history.
Height.
MMA history, and as well, BJ Penn, Nate Diaz was this time a couple of years back as well. And Junior Dos Santos made his MMA debut. I need to find out.
Nick Diaz.
Nick. What did I say? Nate
Diaz. Yeah, I was like,
what
did
that.
they fight? Yeah. That was a great fight, actually.
Fill airtime there while I look for this, because we were talking about this today.
Comment below. Let us know. What's your favourite? Was your favourite the small cage, the correct answer, or is it the large cage, the incorrect answer? Comment below and let us know.
No, I like a big cage, and like I know why you like a small cage, because
more action.
Yeah, it's.
I think it's good.
No, I'm not a fan of it. Dan Henderson advances to the quarterfinals of King of Kings tournament in 1999.
Wow. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, credit here, by the way. I'm on MMA history today.
Yeah, he won that tournament, and he also won a UFC tournament or around that time, right?
And he was competing, wasn't he, in some other things, wasn't he?
He was.
Video dropping soon.
Yeah, that's not on the list anymore.
Why can I not?
No
That's
footage.
not on the list,
no
isn't
footage.
it? 2013, Lyoto Machida and Mark Muniz fought.
Oh, yeah.
They were mates and they fought.
Yeah.
Loser had to buy dinner. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Weirdest prize ever.
Bet. I still cannot find this, so I'm filling
more prestigious than an interim title.
Patrick Cote got messed up, remember, against Anderson Silva. That was 2008. Man,
Jesus, I feel old.
Proper old. All I want... there it is, and I zoom by it. And that always the way.
What?
To Junior Dos Santos, I need to find out. There we are. 10 years ago. We were talking about that. Was 10 years ago. Junior Dos Santos made his UFC debut and knocked out Fabricio Verdun with an uppercut.
And then Fabricio, that was when Fabricio was looking for a title fight, a better contract, got knocked out, then had no leverage, and then basically departed with the promotion.
But more importantly, it's when Junior Dos Santos had a full head of hair.
Yeah, I know. That's how you know it's a long time ago. Unlike somebody. You do have a full head of hair. It's just,
I do.
Just short.
Very short.
Yeah.
That's
something else, was there?
That's all the MMA
I thought
history.
it was like news or something, no?
No. Because it's 2 minutes to something else, so we'll pick that up later.
We'll pick that up later. Okay.
So, good editing was going to be involved by Rob there. But that was your MMA history this week.
What are we moving into?
Many different things. You love putting me in the spot,
the
don't
hands.
you? Oh yeah, we have an interview now. Stevie Ray had a big win over the weekend, and we are going to talk to his head coach. James Doolan will be joining us live from Scotland.
Way to offend a whole country.
So moving on, obviously, Fight Talk, we're now joined by James Doolan. So James, you had a successful weekend with Stevie Ray getting the win. Couple of points. Number one, he welcomed obviously Fight Talk. But number two, after that, Stevie was a little upset about how low he was down on the card. Do you think that played into wanting to prove a point or a little bit of a chip on his shoulder maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think Stevie knows what he's capable of. I think he's had some big wins with Joe Lozon and Ross Pearson, so he thinks he should be higher on the card. But I think sometimes the running order of the card isn't really a big deal too much sometimes, especially with, it's quite an obscure show. It's the weirdest city I've ever been in, I think, for a fight show. So I think I'm coming off a couple of losses and stuff, but it worked out well because it feeds him a wee bit. He's like, I'll show them for putting me on first type of thing.
Speaking of that, I was looking on your Facebook page. We were talking to John Gooden earlier, and I mentioned it to him. You wrote up that it was the weirdest city you were in, and it was like the best place for basically for people to hide. Like, what's the witness protection? Yeah.
It's just a random city with an arena in it. There's nothing there at all. There was like a mall with the usual kind of boring shops. Usually when you go to cities and stuff like that, there's some cool stuff to do, or some cultural stuff or whatever. Like when we were in Nashville for the Lozon fight, we were going to like the kind of country and western stuff, and and country music stuff, and there was a lot of kind of historic stuff in the area. Whereas with this place, there was absolutely nothing there. It was just coffee shops, and that was it.
In terms of Stevie's performance, what was your thoughts on the performance as a whole?
I could do the usual coaching kind of bullshit thing here and be I'm happy with the performance and whatever, but I'm happy he got the win. It takes a bit of pressure off him with the previous 2 losses, and where he is in terms of only having 1 fight left in the contract. So the win was the most important thing. I think performance-wise, he's capable of a lot more than what happened on the night. I think a couple of things happened. Ayari was better than we expected, and he fought completely different for what we had prepared for. He came forward. We expect him. You watch him at welterweight, he'll hang off, he'll back off with Darren Till and Wallhead, and then he'll lunge in and counter. I think in retrospect now, looking back at it, he's obviously dropped for welterweight down to lightweight, and he's fought pretty smart there because he's a big lightweight now, and so it makes sense for him to pressure forward and be a bit of a bully with guys that he's bigger than. But on the night, we kind of prepared for him backing off and then lunging in with a big left hook and right hand, or the big right hand left hook. And then one thing that he done really well that threw Stevie off initially was he countered the left hand, Stevie's left hand. The first couple of times Stevie committed to it, he actually had the counter dialed in. So he slipped, faded in and came back with the right hand. So in terms of performance, I'm happy that Stevie adjusted. Like, he stopped throwing the left hand after he got countered a couple of times. He switched up to the leg kicks, and Ayari never really answered them. So, and then later on in the fight, he actually adapted and started. He threw like the overhand left instead of the straight left, and then he also shifted in for southpaw into orthodox, throwing the left to shut the distance so that the counter was off. But he performed well. He listened, which is always a good thing for me as his coach. He's like adapted in the 15 minutes, which is a sign of his maturity as a fighter. He was restrained enough that like fighting like that for Stevie's against type. Stevie, if you let him fight to the way he wants to fight, he'll just go out and scrap. He'll put everything together and stuff like that. And Ayari could have been a dangerous prospect for him in that way. So he was disciplined enough that he found a way to score with the kicks. He took away that counter shot that hurt him, and then kind of stayed with it. And Ayari changed stuff up. Steve would have to adapt it, but it was a better performance than the Cage and Johnson one for sure. But he's still a wee bit off the pace for what he'd done with some of his earlier fights. In terms of coaching wise, now we spoke about this in depth on the way back. He needs to get away from these close decisions, like split decisions or fights that after we're like, fuck, that could have went either way. Because he's capable of finishing and he's capable of dominating guys. I think maybe part of that's just the opponents he's had the last couple of fights. I think Felder could have brought the best out of him, but we went into that fight knowing like one of you could be getting put to sleep here. And unfortunately, Stevie made a wee mistake, and that fight was always going to be one or the other. But with the Cage and Johnson one, and then with this one with Jessen, it wasn't opponent-wise. They don't really make people look good. Like Cage and Johnson makes everybody look terrible. And by the time Stevie got gone, it was a wee bit too late.
Speaking of the decision, when the fight ended, were you confident he would get the decision? Because a lot of people thought it was very, very close.
Yeah, I was, but I was worried because I also thought in London that when it went to the judges, I thought we'd beat Cajun as well. So that was in the back of my mind. But I had Firas Zihabi in the corner with us, and he scored it 2 rounds to 1 to Stevie, whereas I had scored it probably biased like 3 rounds to 1. But I felt like we would get it, and then obviously the 2 judges gave him at 29-28, and one was 30-27.
Yeah. In terms of, as you said, you think that he can just do a little bit more. That's something that actually Dan Hardy mentioned on the call while he was calling the fight. He said that he felt that Stevie sometimes just doesn't show his full skill set. Is that something that you do agree with?
Yeah, his whole game in the regional circuit and stuff was he put stuff together better than most guys. He's not like a specialist in any one area. He came into the sport when it was proper MMA. It wasn't. He never came from a background in one area. I think for me, obviously I have a wee bit more information, but what I've seen in him sometimes is he watches a little bit too much tape, Stevie, and sometimes he gets in his own way, thinking I can't let this guy do this, and I can't let this guy do this. Whereas one of his better performances in the UFC was his first one against Marcin Bandel, and we had guys who was a big group of Polish lads who train here, and they obviously know Marcin Bandel. He's a very good black belt, competitive black belt. He's won a lot of grappling matches, and they had been suggesting you can't go to the ground with this guy. You can't go to the ground with it. And as short as his camp was for 2 weeks, I was like, don't listen to these guys. Like, go where you feel comfortable, do what you want. And on that fight, Stevie took the fight to the ground multiple times and dominated on the ground. So he needs to get back into that mindset that he can hang with anybody in any position, to be honest, instead of worrying about getting in certain spots, or can I let him take me down, or can I let him hold me against the fence. He's good enough to hang with guys in every area.
Does it concern you as a coach as well, James, when Stevie has mentioned, I think the last time he was on with us as well, the contract thing was going on, and he's mentioned about retirement as well. I think Stevie's still only 28. So as a coach, what do you do to your fighter to go, look, you're in the prime of your career right now, so we got to forget this retirement talk, or is that something that you would speak to your fighters about?
No, I speak to him about it. I think he's in a funny situation where he's fighting for money. Like, it's not like he's fighting for the love of the sport. It is his job. He's got a mortgage. He's got 3 kids and whatever else, and it's robbed him a little bit of the enjoyment, which is a problem. But the retirement talks a lot of crap. To be honest, he is 20. He's just turned 28. He'll probably not hit his prime till maybe 30 even. And we spoke about this over there, like, cause you're about to enter your prime years now. You shouldn't really be retiring until 32 to 35. Just to get that out of his head. I think it's just the pressure of, this is how I earn money and whatever else. And then I think he also thinks, like, if he wasn't in the UFC, his ability to earn enough money as a fighter would be compromised.
That's the one thing I was going to say. It seems really like it's leveraged on his kind of time in the UFC. Every time he talks about possibly being cut, that's when he talks about retirement. But do you think like now this move of Demetrius Johnson moving to one, and then one signing up like Eddie Alvarez, and Bellator making big moves, that it almost should take the pressure off some fighters to say, here, there's loads of promotions you can fight in and make money in?
Yeah, he got, when he was out of contract there for a bit, he had some good offers actually with some decent money from like the likes of ACB and stuff like that. Actually, like money that compares with the UFC. I don't think Bellator pays what that level of guy as much to make a living off, but he could obviously fight. They would snap him up. He's 6-3 in the UFC. But ACB offered them good money. We could have like contacts. We've got contacts with like EFC in South Africa. Can pay not too bad. One FC would be pretty cool. Just it'd be cool to have a guy there. And then I think even we got offered, or we had contact with Brave. Was it Brave FC? Earlier this year, they were looking for a debut featherweight pro, and they guys seem to pay pretty well as also. So there's options there for him. It's just it's not what he's used to. I think he's actually on pretty good money in the UFC now, because he's at the tail end of his third contract, and he's won 6 fights, so his money's obviously jumped up pretty quick.
So you were saying certain fighters can make fighters look bad, and that is something like you look at. There's so many fights you can think of that you are going, oh my god, what a fight this is going to be, and it turns out to be an absolute stinker. One that comes to mind is Derrick Lewis and Francis Ngannou. Everybody was going to be excited about 2 powerhouses, and it just went squash. But for you, Stevie, what's next? What sort of guy would you like to see him fight against?
I think he wants a top 20 guy. I know that. Ideally, somebody who's going to try and fight with him instead of steal a points win. Somebody who's maybe going to try and hurt him or finish him. I think also somebody that scares him a little bit. If he's scared, he's easy to motivate Stevie. Whereas with the Ayari fight, we didn't think he would be capable of stopping Stevie with strikes. He's not really shown it at the highest level. Even before the UFC, the fight with Mikael Lebu and stuff, he's tricky with submissions, but it never really scared him enough. And like that kind of, it has to be me or him, and it has to be him first type of mentality. Whereas Stevie really suits that. Like we were talking about having a bit of a chip in his shoulder, when he feels threatened and his back's against the wall, it brings the best out in him sometimes. And I think the previous couple of guys have not done that. The Cage and Johnson fight was, Stevie had trained with him a little bit, and the whole fight week they were high-fiving each other and just like talking away at each other and stuff like that. I'm like, you're not best when you're like that. He used to be really good on the local scene when he was getting shit on forums and stuff off guys, or do you know what I mean? Or they're giving him crap on social media. It used to put something in him to prove a point, and he doesn't really get that sometimes with the UFC guys. So there was a wee bit of that kind of building, I think, with Mark Diakese before he went on a bit of a slide, and so now that fight's not even in his mind anymore. But like somebody who'll scare him a wee bit, and somebody who'll come to fight him, but somebody who's higher up in the rankings that's going to inspire him to like put in a performance and maybe show people that he's capable of getting finishes and hurting people when he fights them.
You brought up Firas Zihabi. Of course, you cornered him for Stevie Ray. Both his corner. What was that experience like?
It was pretty cool. I've been in changing rooms and stuff with him before, and I've spoke to him before and stuff. And he's excellent. He's like the praise he gets, and his reputations is well deserved. It was cool for me because he let me take control of the camp, and I learned some stuff even watching him warming up, like Nazareth and Nordine and Alex Garcia, and just seeing how he operates and stuff. So it was a cool experience just being around him. If anything, it's kind of reinforced my belief that we're doing the same stuff, if that makes sense. We kind of think the same way. We're prepping guys the same way. We go about our business the same way as coaches. But it was a cool experience for me, like just seeing him in that environment, and obviously knowing that this guy's done this hundreds of times, and he's a main event fighters with GSP, and that stuff was pretty cool.
Does it, like, from the coach's aspect, we talk about fighters and wanting to improve and what the fighters do. You as a coach now, is that something that you find working alongside or working with Firas that will bring out in you? And is that something that as a coach you study? As in, obviously you're moulding fighters to fight in a certain style. You're the head coach of these guys, but you want to improve. You're a mixed martial artist who's still evolving, even though you're at the trainer aspect.
Yeah, 100%. I think once you become stagnant, you become irrelevant, and the game, the speed of the game and the way it's evolving, you have to stay up to speed with stuff. So I still study as if I'm obviously still training a lot of martial arts myself, which helps with the coaching. I'll still be on the mat most days. I'll still spar every now and again. And I still get involved, but I study the game and also study coaches quite a bit. I talk to other coaches, obviously, and just try and keep progressing, obviously, that aspect. Just the same way as I'm obviously trying to get better as a martial artist. You have to recognise it's two completely different skill sets. And again, once you stop developing, it's time to stop.
Stevie's not the only guy you have in the UFC, of course. Danny Henry as well is in the UFC. Two huge wins in the UFC so far, Daniel Cormier and Dawodu, really hot prospects there. Does he have a fight lined up? Because I haven't really heard anything from Danny Henry.
He has. He's just had an operation on his elbow. He's got, I think it's like degenerative arthritis in his elbows. He's another 28-year-old guy with old man elbows. He had a lack of mobility in his arms, even for that fight. And he got some bone. It was like bone spurs, I think. He got them aspirated out his elbow. So he's had some other bits. He had the patella replacement and stuff like that. And he's back training and stuff. Now he actually got offered a fight on the September card in Brazil against Charles Oliveira, which would have been really cool. And we had to turn it down because it was a week after he'd just come back for the surgery. So he's in the gym. Sean Shelby just pretty much says, let us know when you're good to go. So he is back training and stuff around the injury. It's still not 100% healed. He's got a lot of rehabilitation stuff to do on it just to make sure that when he comes back it's not going to be an ongoing issue. So
what you're telling us, I'm getting out of that, is Danny Henry has turned into a diva because he accepted his UFC debut while he was wearing a cast.
That's true. Yeah, he had a broken foot for the debut. He obviously wanted on the Glasgow card. He wanted the contract. He was in good shape for the Hakeem fight. he had a good camp then, and everyone went pretty much perfect for us for that fight. But the elbow's been ongoing. It's almost, the way he described it, it's like somebody's savagely armbarred him, just all the time. So even things like if you punch him in the glove and his guard's up, it hurts his elbow. Wow. So the operation's apparently been successful. He's got full range in it now. It's just a wee bit weak.
So it seems like a silly question, but I'll ask it for the layman. But when you have two fighters, or like obviously you have a big gym there, guys, and this is the question. Like Danny Henry, Stevie Ray, two very different fighters. How do you specialise the training for the individual, or do they still just turn up and have an open class and take part in the training and they're part of the drills that night, or do you set certain programs for individual fighters?
We have a system where we'll bring them up through the program, which is pretty generic. But once you get to that level, a pro fighter level, even our more experienced amateur guys, it's all individualised to that guy. And we almost pride ourselves on the fact that our gym produces guys with different skill sets. Like some gyms, you can look at a fighter and you know he comes for that gym. You don't even need to be told just by watching them. Whereas I think being a former fighter myself, I know that doesn't work. So most of our time is specific. We have fight team sessions where all the fighters are working drills. Those drills are stuff like everybody needs them. It's like MMA 101 almost, like it's stuff. But at the same time, they're putting their own. I kind of refer to it as putting their own fingerprints on it. They put their own style on it, their own wrinkles on it or whatever. And then also with the guys, also try and do like either small group sessions or as much one-to-one stuff with them as possible. So that it is individual tailored programs for these guys. They tend to develop quicker that way. You get some gyms will be pretty generic, and you get one or two good guys will come through the system. But it's guys that could have came through any system and done pretty well. Maybe they're athletic or they've got good work ethic. But with the system we've got here, we've had a fair amount of success with guys way back from like Graham Turner at Cage Warriors, with obviously Joanne Calderwood at Invicta, then our UFC debut, with Martin Delaney went to the Ultimate Fighter. I used to work with Paul McVeigh as well, and he was like a double champion. He was like my coach and I was his coach. So we've got a kind of tried and trusted system here. We've had guys on every major show in Europe as champion. We've got guys, both my guys are now winning records in the UFC. So until we start getting problems with that, I don't really need to change it too much.
What is the best thing you get out of being a coach, and what's the worst thing, the most thing that it doesn't matter if it's a novice coming in, starting training, or your pros, your biggest hate that fighters do in the gym? So the best thing that you love to see a fighter do, and the worst thing?
The best thing, I guess, is just when everyone comes together. The best thing is just when everyone comes together. You can see them improving. Our son have put work into it's kind of came to fruition, I guess. Like something that we've aimed for has happened. That's always cool. The worst thing, I guess, is knowing that when some of the guys put their heart and soul into this sport, they sacrifice everything for it. They do everything right, and it might just not go right on the night. And some of the losses obviously can be crushing. So that's the actual worst part. Like sometimes there's a couple of losses you've had where we're talking about this at the weekend again. Like if you're flying home, when we flew home for the fight in Brazil where Stevie lost, I don't think we spoke to each other the whole time. We're just like we're just sitting looking at each other. Like, oh, fuck, I'm making notes on my phone and stuff like that. But then we had a rubbish journey home to Canada there. It was like 3 flights and stuff like that. But because he'd won the fight, it was pretty cool. It was like we're just having a laugh and going over stuff and going to add this to your game and whatever else. So I guess that the best thing is just seeing stuff coming as you plan it, everyone playing out the way you planned it or intended it. And then the worst is when you follow everyone, don't cut any corners, and you just maybe not get the result, just because the other guy might be better than you.
One actually that I'm always interested with a coach, and especially now, you see it now in the new era of MMA. If your fighter is being, let's call him, not very polite, we're going the nice way, social media, the new style fighter, mouthing off, Do you have a word and you say, hey, you're representing my gym, reining in a little here? Or do you know it's just a fighter selling himself, and once they keep it to a certain level, you're happy enough?
Thankfully, I don't get that too much, actually. I think the process we've got in the gym beats that out of people. I think before they ever get near it. I think that Danny can be quite cheeky sometimes. When he was at UFC, he quite likes an argument, Danny, and he's quite sharp. I don't know if it's for working on the doors and arguing with drunk guys, but see if it's part of their personality, then I quite like it. If it's who they are, it's absolutely fine with me, as long as it doesn't go too far. But the problem I have with it is when you get some young guys coming in and they're quiet wee guys, but they're like, I'm going to call this guy a dick on Facebook or whatever. Like, if it's fake and it's forced, it's so obvious. And it just doesn't come across well at all. And then I always think if there's fake with that, what else are they fake with? Do you know what I mean? I like honest people. If you're like that and you like that banter or whatever, that's absolutely fine. Go ahead with it. But if you're doing it just because you've seen some famous guy do it and you're going and getting the same tattoos as him and all that stuff, then you need to. I'll have a word with the guys a wee bit. It's like you need to find yourself in the sport and be yourself to be successful. The guys I've had success with the most, they're all pretty respectful. They're hard working and stuff like that. So I just kind of use them as models, I guess.
Good way to leave it, I think. It's an absolute pleasure. Sometimes I ask questions because I just go, I want to know what a coach thinks about that, and I want to know what a coach thinks about that. So glad you answered that. Is it something that we're going to see going forward as well, James? Working alongside with Firas down the line?
Maybe. He did ask me if I wanted to go over and work there. I think even the first time Stevie went, Eric O'Keefe was working with Stevie more.
Great guy.
He was a really good coach there, and me and him kind of built up a decent relationship, talking back and forth. And then he came over to Glasgow, and he's a dead nice guy. I think so. I think it's just getting the time for me. I've just opened up this newer gym, a bigger place. I've got like over 100 students to kind of take care of. I've got another couple of guys who help with the coaching and stuff, but I'm proper hands-on with coaching now. I'll get back on Monday morning. I was in the gym in the afternoon. I've also just had another baby, like a 3-month-old baby.
Oh, congrats.
So getting to Canada could be a problem, but at some point I definitely would like to go over and just obviously pick guys like Firas Zihabi's brain. Would be cool.
Excellent. Listen, we really appreciate your time. Congratulations again on another successful weekend in the UFC. We look forward to seeing both Stevie and Danny back in action and hearing that beautiful Scottish accent shouting instructions into the cage.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, man. Take care. Have a good evening. Thanks to James Doolan there for joining us. Always good talking with a head coach. Gives you that different dynamic and I keep saying it today. Peek behind the curtain. Rob, start spreading the news.
Sure.
UFC 230 New York goes down this weekend. Daniel Cormier taking on the Black Beast Derrick Lewis. Have you seen his balls are hot t-shirts?
No, I haven't actually.
Rogan was wearing one on the J.
Of course he was.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I should get one.
Strike while the balls are hot, I could say. But
is that what it says on the...
No, it just says my balls are hot. I think it says I understand or something. I'm not too sure.
Cool.
Daniel Cormier taking on Derrick Lewis is the main event for the UFC heavyweight strap. Short notice fight for Derrick Lewis.
Yes.
Quick turnaround. It was only 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That he fought Alexander Volkov in a fight that
he was losing.
He was on his way
and he was taking some damage.
Yeah, and with 11 seconds to go, flatlined Volkov and got the victory, and then came out with that glorious "my balls are hot" line. But Daniel Cormier is taking this fight in short notice. Openly said he was taking this to save the card, and he wouldn't be taking this fight at short notice if it was against Stipe.
Yeah.
So he was like, Derrick is a sort of one-dimensional style fighter. A little bit of that. I don't think he meant it in a disrespectful.
I was thinking about this one because that kind of put me off a little bit because, as in, like, is Daniel Cormier focused for this? But to be honest, I think it's coming from more of a perspective of Daniel Cormier just being a really good analyst and he's being truthful to his audience, I guess, if you want to put it that way, where he did assess the situation. He looked at Derrick Lewis. I don't think he's underestimating. I just think he has had like a deep dive into his skills and thinks, okay, here's what I think of him. And generally, Cormier is right with his assessment of, you know, fighters. So I'm not taking that away from him. I don't think he's underestimating Lewis, personally.
Okay. With the fight,
yes,
is it, to go on the other side, is it too short notice for Derrick Lewis? Now, he has spoke about, you know, he thinks Stipe should be getting the shot, but look, this was offered to him. He's not going to turn this down. Yeah. But is it too much short notice? He said openly he doesn't train that much.
Yeah, this is lining up perfectly for, you know, the James Gallagher one where he was talking shit to, it's not the exact same thing, but he was talking shit. Then somebody made like a meme of it, and like when, you know, cockiness backfires. This could be like when like truthfulness backfires. You'll have Derrick Lewis coming out and saying, I'm not taking a title shot, I need cardio. And then you'll probably have Derrick Lewis tiring out and losing a title fight 3 weeks later. Just for what the bookmakers think, paddypower.com have site. Daniel Cormier as 1-7, and they have Derrick Lewis as 4-1. So that means for the American viewers, I never do know this over under malarkey. Plus 300, plus 500.
Derrick Lewis, if you were to put $10 on Derrick Lewis, you would get back $50.
Yeah, $50.
Yeah. So normally bookmakers, you know, they come up with these odds because, you know, they're right.
Yeah,
but as we've seen in the last couple of UFC shows, Alan Patrick stands out to me. Don Maj, who did he beat the weekend?
Yeah,
he was a huge underdog. He got
it happens all the time in MMA, and sometimes
especially heavyweights.
Yeah, and sometimes it happens in this situation where you have somebody coming in short notice and everyone's saying, no, it's not going to happen, and then it does. So I don't think you can count out Lewis, especially as you said at heavyweight. Now Cormier is arguably better at heavyweight. Like he has a better record at heavyweight.
Unbeaten at heavyweight.
He's unbeaten at heavyweight. Of course, you can say, well, is he coming up against the best guys, or is he coming up against the same type of guys that he was at light heavyweight? That's an argument, but I don't think you can look past Cormier winning this, personally. I think, you know, skill-wise, he's there. If he's, you know, even 80%, 70%, I think he still wins it. But Lewis, we've seen it. We've seen it against Volkov. We've seen it against a lot of guys where he just lands a shot at the end. And Cormier has been finished. He's finished by John Jones with a head kick. Derrick Lewis is not going to throw a head kick, but
Derrick Lewis has thrown a head
kick. He has
kicks.
thrown a head kick, so he probably will now. But you can't look past Cormier in this one.
Is Cormier gonna be in the same way when he fought Anderson Silva? He was very strategical that he didn't want to get involved on the feet. So are we gonna see that? Yes, it's short notice fight, so I'm gonna go back to basically got me to where I am in my skill set, and that's my wrestling.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd have to imagine so, especially when Lewis has shown on the floor, at least when he's tired. Like when he's not tired, he does these mad things where he comes against good grapplers and he just blasts out of... It's insane.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but you'd have to imagine after a round and a half of Cormier grinding on looking for takedowns. And Cormier's a good striker as well.
Cormier has been finished a couple of occasions.
He has,
as well, yeah. So now, like the thing is, talking as you do amongst people are going, you know, Anthony Johnson couldn't finish him. Do you know what I mean? Landed some big shots on him. Do you know what I mean? And they start giving you lists, and then you have the count list. John Jones, MMA mats. But John Jones finished him with the head kick. You know,
he's had finished a couple of times.
Yeah,
it was once since John Jones.
Well, no, Anthony, but he was
rocked.
Clocked.
Yeah, he was clocked.
Anderson Silva hurt him.
Yeah,
he was a glorified middleweight going up. I'm trying to play devil's advocate of how...
No, 100%.
So if people are coming down, we're going, no, what are you talking about? Cormier's dead.
Yeah.
I like Cormier, big Cormier fan. But a big fucking Derrick Lewis fan as well. Yeah. So from the fan side of it, like me, yes, the odds are right for me in skill set against skill set. I don't think Daniel Cormier is underestimating Derrick Lewis, but if we're here next week on MMA on Points, obviously Fight Talk podcast, talking about this, and we're talking about holy shit, Derrick Lewis knocked out Daniel Cormier, not gonna be surprised.
Not surprised, motherfucker. No, either will I. Like, I will be surprised in the moment. I'll be like, holy shit, he did it. But like, no, he can win. Like, he can land the shot. They're heavyweights. But yeah, pick Daniel Cormier by second round, rear naked choke.
Yeah, I think it's submission.
Something like that.
well.
Something like that.
Third round for me.
Yeah.
Late third. Lewis just has that way. Let's unmic the young man.
Unmic?
Unmute the young man from Cavan off camera. Sean, welcome to your first pick. Make it right. Derrick Lewis, Daniel Cormier. What you got?
Thanks, Noel. The fun money, I think, is going to be on Derrick Lewis.
I already like shows, and Sean is an addition to the show.
Yeah.
There's no fun backing Daniel Cormier at 1-7. So my money's on Derrick Lewis by KO, and even bigger price.
First round?
Are you gonna go first round?
We'll go second round.
Oh.
Second round KO.
Conservative, Sean.
He's only gonna knock him out.
Yeah, only when I built them up about. Great.
It's to be honest, it's throw money on it. Why not? Like throw a fiver on it, throw a tenner on it, something like that. Why not?
Look, Peter Casey in the presidential election here in Ireland went from 501 to 8-1. They lost, but it was great crack watching it go down.
That doesn't help the argument at all.
So I'm Daniel Cormier. Sorry, Derek, I love you.
Yeah.
You know, we go deep. You know, we saw something now. I just got to do number 2. He had great lines before. You know what I mean? My balls are hot. But you got to be looking at the champion here. Brock Lesnar's in the further away view.
Will that ever happen? I don't know.
I just think Daniel Cormier is too good of a professional to look past the danger that is Derrick Lewis.
There's rumours that Brock Lesnar might be showing up, I heard.
Yeah, he said he'll slap him in the face if he gets into the cage.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Nice.
Don't look. Things have simmered down here in Ireland about unprofessionalism and tugs. Let's not be slapping each other in the cage.
Your boy's up next.
So Sean is going second round knockout. Daniel Cormier. Or Derrick Lewis. You're going
Cormier round 2. RNC.
Chris Weidman.
Your boy.
Against Jacare is your co-main event. A late addition to the card because the gorgeous,
the handsome
Luke Rockhold fell out. What did they say? Multiple injuries, didn't they? Did the injury come out? What he injured?
He got like a surgery or something that went wrong. Wasn't it?
Worst nightmare. Imagine getting a surgery that went wrong.
Something like that, yeah.
Like, doctor, you've one job.
Yeah, just do the surgery.
Just do it correctly.
It's like, imagine, it's like getting post, and then the postman like leaving outside or something.
Yeah.
Be weird, wouldn't it?
Inside joke. Weidman though, in a way, is this a harder style matchup for Chris Weidman?
Maybe. Look, I think Chris Weidman, if I'm honest, apart from his last fight where I thought he looked impressive, he hasn't looked great. He just hasn't. And
you're only as good as your last fight. So you said he looked great in his last fight.
He looked really good against Kelvin Gastelum, and I think that's a weird one because I don't know how to play that one because Kelvin Gastelum has, like, you can say, Kelvin Gastelum was a smaller guy, but he just went in and he beat Jacare. Gastelum
so MMA maths here.
So it doesn't work, as we know. So like you can't really look at that and say, well, you know, of course Chris won because he was the bigger guy. Jacare was the bigger guy and he lost. So I think Weidman still has the skills there. He looked great in that fight. But against Mousasi, didn't look great. It was a bit of a weird one. Against Yoel Romero again, didn't look great. Luke Rockhold, he looked good in the first round. That was more competitive than people remember. Like, it was the second round and the third, I think it was the third round, the fourth round. Was it when he
what did he do? He done
the spinning back fist, I think it was.
Yeah, costing the fight. He was winning
missed
the fight.
it. Yeah, he didn't look great there. But it was a competitive fight up to then.
Yoel Romero knee, holy fuck.
But for me, it's just, I know that he had that fight, the Kelvin Gastelum one, but there's just something about that fight where people are almost writing it off because of Gastelum's size, which I think is wrong, but I can see where they're coming from.
Do you almost think as well the UFC would have been in New York because Chris Weidman worked so hard when he was the champion at the time to get the UFC to New York that they want him to have a win in New York?
Probably.
I said New York loads there.
You did, it was weird, yeah.
Proper loads.
They might want him to have a win in New York because, like, he's from New York.
He's a New Yorker.
Yeah. But Jacare as well, he's coming off a loss, isn't he? He's coming off the
Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah, which was a phenomenal performance as well. This is a weird fight. I don't know. Like, on the feet, I think it's competitive. But to be honest,
Jacare's stand-up is underestimated, isn't it? Everybody just thinks he takes you down. This Millark starts.
Jacare looks good in the feet.
Yeah, he does,
That head kick over Derek Brunson, who, Derek Brunson, we'll talk about him a bit later.
Getting whooped.
But I just think this is a really weird fight. It's a really hard one to call. Like, I think this is probably harder to call than Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman, even though same thing. I don't
how
know
I
who wins
opened the
that fight.
segment. That's how I opened it.
Yeah, you think it's more a difficult fight for him? I'm gonna go Jacare. I think on the feet, I think it's competitive, but I think Jacare will be able to edge it slightly. On the floor, again, if Weidman's on top, he can do work, but when do we ever see Jacare on his back? And even if he's on his back, he's good at sweeping, good at getting back to his feet. So I just think it's going to be a close decision win for Jacare Souza. But it's a really tough one.
It's a really tough fight.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with what you're saying. Like, I can see that. But, like, you're not going to get me picking against Chris Weidman.
I know that.
Like, Weidman's stand-up has evolved. He's got better and better. He uses nice elbows, like little step.
Remember the elbow
elbows
against Mark
Muniz?
Muniz?
Oh, Jesus. Beautiful. It was like, look at him. Is he all right? He's up now. Grand, because Muniz was out for a long time. Remember that? And the blood was literally
that was graphic. Don't show Joe Roddy that.
But yeah, Kelvin Gastelum, arm triangle choke, happy days. So I think, Weidman is well versed on the ground. I don't think he's to the level of Jacare.
He's a different style.
But yeah, I think if he's in the top position, he can use that and not get caught in submissions that way. If he's stuck on the bottom, he's stuck on the bottom, he's going to find it difficult to get up from underneath Jacare.
You seen what Luke Rockhold done when he got him on the floor. Like, that's not saying that Chris Weidman couldn't have done stuff because he took some damage, but you could see when Rockhold took his back and he was landing shots. It wouldn't surprise me if he got to a similar situation with Jacare. Like, Jacare is the elite of grapplers. He's won the World Championship so many times, beat Roger Gracie, beat so many good guys. So I don't know. I just feel this one is for Jacare. And again, it's a short notice fight for both, but they're both in camp. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Weidman, split decision.
Nice.
Unmute Sean.
I'm going with Jacare, split decision.
I like this
I
boy.
don't know. I don't like this 2-1 shot.
It's a trend going on
I'm not
here.
a fan of it. Yeah. But the thing is, I can't disagree with it. Sometimes when I make picks, and it tends to happen when Conor McGregor is fighting, it's because you're a fan of said fighter. So it happens, and I'm a big fan of Chris Weidman.
And I'm a heartless motherfucker.
I was on the train when he said everybody get on the train. I was like, yeah, the train's going to be full, Chris. We can't be letting too many
I genuinely
people
thought you were
on.
talking about an actual train for a minute.
No.
Really did. When you said I was on the train, I was like,
I did
what
as
train?
well.
No, when it was actually his last title defense. He was like, look,
Yeah.
the train's nearly full now. You got to get on the train, or we're not accepting anymore. Just get behind Chris Weidman. And
Very unfortunate as well in some of his fights, to be fair.
Some of his fights are peculiar losses.
Yes.
Dave Branch is on the card. This was one of the switcheroos. Dave Branch was originally due to fight Jacare, and now he's fighting Gerard Cannonier. Branch again. Branch is one of the guys that
almost, isn't he?
But you were excited when he moved over to the UFC as well from World Series of Fightings, which is now PFL. And again, he came in, he beat Krzysztof Jotko in a split decision, which was close. Then he lost to Luke Rockhold.
No shame in that.
And then he looked good against Thiago Santos.
Yeah.
So this now is Dave Branch. He's got to get that momentum going, hasn't he? And he was brilliant on the MMA era when it was Ariel Helwani. He's a real brutally honest guy. Like, if he thinks you're a cunt, he will tell you you're a cunt.
And he did. Yeah, he did tell him. Yeah, Dave Branch is an excellent fighter. He's really, really good. But he was the bridesmaid. Always the bridesmaid. That's your thing?
Always the bridesmaid.
Yeah, he really is that, though. If you look at his record and you look who he's lost to. So you have Gerald Harris, Gerald Harris had a good run in the UFC when he was there. That was that slam. He lost to him. Then had some wins in between. Then he fought again. Then lost to Paul Harris. Again, another name who was pretty good in the UFC. Then lost Anthony Johnson. And then lost to Luke Rockhold. That was his next loss. So he's only losing to really good guys. So when he was matched up with Jacare, it was another one of them attempts for him to say, okay, let's see if I can get past this guy. Now he's going up against a guy with Cannonier who is like similar to Dave Branch, as in they're good everywhere. Pretty decent hands, decent grappling,
but in the
not
same
as good.
flip side argument, maybe not the bigger names, but Dominic Reyes, he lost it. Reyes looked fantastic in his last game.
Jan Blachowicz.
And Jan Blachowicz again.
And Glover.
Yeah, so his 3 losses have come against,
so they're similar enough, in a similar enough position, as in they're looking to kind of break through that glass ceiling. But I just think that Dave Branch is the better fighter here. I really do. He has good hands. Has some really good wins, better wins, and that's not always how it works. But even Jerry Cannonier's last couple of losses, I think this is a bad fight from coming into this one. Huge if he wins it, but I think it's a bad matchup for him. I think Dave Branch all day here for me.
All day?
All day. Every day.
Yeah.
Except for Saturdays. I mean, it's on Saturdays. Yeah. Shit.
Yeah, Dave Branch for me here is taking this. He looked good. He looked in the Luke Rockhold fight, I think he showed too much respect to Luke Rockhold a little
I wouldn't
bit.
say nervous, but I think maybe it's just that. He was, he backed off a little bit.
And that's not his style.
No.
So yeah, I'd like that. Thiago Santos, he came out and he looked great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta say,
he was on a good run.
Yeah, and momentum. I always say, I know it's you're only as good as your last fight now, but momentum is such a big thing, and you got to think Jared here is looking at right. I have 2 losses. You know what I mean? And 2 losses used to mean walking papers, which is unfair to UFC. But 3 losses means, you know what I mean? Fucking don't even look at Sean Shelby in the eye. Like, don't even pop him a text for a week. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless it's a super close fight, avoid at all costs.
Yeah.
But let's unmute the young man from Cavan. Sean?
I'm going with Branch as well. I seen some quotes from him on, I think it was either the MMA or Ari's show. He said that he wasn't surprised when he seen Rockhold get pulled, that his fight then got pulled. So I think he's going to want to vent a little bit.
Prove a point.
It's good.
Look at us bringing data to the show.
Yeah, Jesus. It's in a way, it's a weird one where the UFC, it's something we've spoke about before. I always know when Rob's trying to hire me, he starts fiddling with him, like, get closer to the mic now. Sometimes they're doing this, they're putting guys that are the same weight class further down the card so they can, you know.
It makes sense, especially lower down the card. I have a problem with it when it's the main event, personally, but when it's down the card, it's fine.
Carl Robertson takes on Jack Marsden. A little bit of Welsh interest in this one. What are we thinking, Roberto?
This is a tough one because I think they're very well matched. Marshman obviously has a lot more experience, but I think they're 2 good strikers who have had a pretty decent run in the UFC. Have some good losses against, or at least Marshman has losses against good guys like Shoeface, tough fight, and Santos, tough fight. So I think this is going to be a really exciting one. It's going to be on the feet. I think slightly you'll have Carl Robertson, the slightly better striker overall. I think he uses kicks better. Marshman likes to use his hands too much. Not too much, but at least more than... I'd like to see him mix it up more, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But he has the more experience as well, Marshman. So I'm not really sure. Again, this is a well-matched fight. But Carl Robertson, I feel, is just a slightly better striker. We could see some takedowns on both sides. Both guys have submissions, but I feel like they want to test each other on the feet because they are strikers, and they've come against guys who would like to take them down in the past. So I feel it's going to be a striker match, and I feel Robertson is just that little bit better overall as a striker.
Are you going finish or are you going?
No, decision.
So, if you want to tune in for a long 15-minute fight,
good fight though.
No, it
Scrap.
is. Marshman. Jesus Christ.
James Marsden.
Marshman. There was a lot when he obviously coming across from Cage Warriors again. There was a lot of hype coming into him, and he's sort of had that wish-wash win loss pattern.
Good
so if we go with that, this is a win. But yeah, I like watching both of these guys. As you said, they have the potential to mix it up, but both of them like standing.
Yeah.
That's where they do their best work, I suppose. I don't know. I'm just gonna go with Marshman. I've watched Marshman a lot on like coming up through Cage Warriors and stuff like that. So again, you've got that little bit of rooting for him in that sense. So I'd like to see the Welshman get a victory here. So I will go with Marshman's decision.
Yeah, I just think. I remember that one in the Dana White series when Robertson got that finish with the elbows, really short range elbows. I like him. I like him as a striker. I think he's good.
Dana White's contenders.
Yes.
Yeah. Sean?
Don't really have a strong opinion on that one. I do think I'll go to a decision, and I do like Welsh people, so
nice.
I'm going to go with Marshman.
I wonder what the odds are on that actually, Josh. And Carl Robertson is the favourite at 4-11. So Jack Marsden is 15-8.
It's arguably a 50-50 fight with that. You don't really see them 5-6, 11-10 or something like that.
Squeaky tight, there we are. Sean's a gambler. This is a fun fight. This is opening the card, is it?
Yeah.
It is indeed. Derek Brunson takes on Israel Adesanya.
Ooh.
He's the middleweight John Jones.
Yeah.
So everyone keeps
just
saying.
showing the time there. Just how much time
great.
we have.
Thanks, Rob.
Not too much. We have a guest on the line, but let's talk about this fight because it's great. This is probably the best fight on the card apart from the main event and maybe the co-main event. Just in terms of like attraction with Adesanya, I think a lot of people have eyes on him. I know a lot of people were talking about Adesanya maybe getting that Chris Weidman fight. I think that's a bit too early for him, personally. But in this one, I think a lot of people are going the same way. I think they'll look at it as Derek Brunson is that guy who's going to come forward, chin up, hands down, and Adesanya is going to be able to counter him. And I do think that's the case. I think Adesanya has proved in his last 2 fights that he can beat the type of fighter that Derek Brunson is. I love that we got to see him against someone like Vettori, who is like Derek Brunson. He'll keep coming forward, taking shots, but I think he has a better chin, and I think he's better defensively. Whereas Derek Brunson will, again, he comes forward, chin down, and he can get hit. Chin up. There's some obviously good things that can happen there, as in if you look at the Anderson Silva fight, another guy who's an excellent striker, really, really technical. I thought Derek Brunson probably should have won that fight. He kind of threw it away in the end, but you could see when Anderson was trying to land some shots and Derek Brunson's punches were coming from all crazy angles and he was landing. Even in the clinch, Anderson Silva had that tight plum and he was just throwing shots over the top. So I can definitely see something like that happening, but the Vettori fight that Israel had and his last fight as well against Tavares, I just think both of them together and what we saw in them fights, I think we saw enough to say, yeah, he beat somebody like Brunson. Even his takedown defense was really good, and when he got back to his feet, when he got taken down and got back to his feet, really, really good. So I got to go Adesanya in this one.
I'm the same. Adesanya, like, people see 14-0 and they go, wow, 14-0. He's 75 wins as a professional kickboxer with 5 losses, 1 draw. This is an elite stand-up fighter.
Yeah.
Of course, fought in the likes of Glory as well, different big promotion, obviously, in kickboxing world. But
smart as well.
He's just, his attacks are so composed and calm, but have the strike of a cobra hitting you. You know what I mean? He just sort of sits and charms and then bang and strikes. It's phenomenal how he mixes up and how he disguises his attacks as well. Yeah. Derek Brunson has the weird style, but he fights like a giraffe. Yeah. You know, his neck is just so high up, and it's all the
gambles,
wrong,
isn't it?
It's all the wrong. And who was it that he basically charged down?
Was that Robert Whittaker? Or was it when he got
here's my chin. There you go.
But he does it, and the weird thing is, like, I remember against Machida, when they were in that weird kind of combination where they were almost in a clinch range and Machida kind of just retreated out and Brunson with just a crazy punch just out of nowhere landed it and beat him. So like you can see something like that happen, but you know, in theory you can. I just don't I don't see it as in I don't see it in this fight. But yeah, Adesanya is just too clever, I think. Just too clever. Yeah.
No, I do. I agree. Adesanya for me is going to win it, and I think he finishes him because of the high chin.
I think so too.
Like I think Brad Tavares,
but he's not a finisher, which is weird. Adesanya, he gets a lot of decisions.
I know he does have a fair few. But
I mean,
like as in Brad Tavares, tough guy to put away.
Very tough.
Vittori, very tough to put away. So you know what I mean. He's beaten both of them, split decision, unanimous decision. But I do think he has plenty of finishes in him. But he's just got to remember he's climbing the ladder in caliber that he's fighting in MMA.
He's not like a one punch guy, as in he's not going to go in there and finish someone in 20 seconds. He's a timing guy and he's a counter guy.
He's Ken or Ryu from Street Fighter.
He's amazing.
Do you know what I mean? And you know all the
moves. By the way,
plug,
watch Brendan Norman's breakdown, his last one on Adesanya. That was phenomenal.
Unmute, John.
He's unmuted.
Gonna go Adesanya all day and twice on Sundays.
Excellent.
That's the proper expression.
Yeah, I know. I said not on Saturdays, which just doesn't work because it's on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, Sunday you could argue if you're watching it this time in order. We're not going to jump through some other things, but because we got guests waiting for us as well. But Jason Knight is back. Mississippi Mean. Love Jason Knight.
Just get it.
Again, because, you know, he's been on the show.
He's a ledge.
And he's dead sound.
Sijara
Eubanks got Hey, have a title fight.
Not.
Give us that title fight. Go and fight.
I'll talk about some of these on Thursday on the live chat with Jason from MMA on Point.
MMA on Point. What a channel. Well, there you have it. That's your UFC 230 main card picks by myself, Robert, and Sean. And that wraps up our episode 125 and obviously Fight Talk. Before we get to that, thanks to John Gooden and James Doolan for joining us this week. No Brendan, he will be back next week, but it's been 125 episodes, Rob.
Yeah.
And obviously Fight Talk, and it obviously is no more.
Yeah, well,
on this channel.
Well, stick around this channel. We'll be putting stuff up.
Yeah, the channel's not going to be dead in the water. To be snippets. We know people like snippets.
Yeah. Be clips.
But
maybe
of course,
interviews, that kind of stuff.
As we mentioned at the top of the show, from next Tuesday onwards. So if you haven't already, go on to MMA On Point. Hit subscribe. Go and check out the lads' videos as it is. If you haven't been there before, how are you a fan of MMA? Yeah.
Also, if you're an audio listener, because this is important,
yeah,
it's going to change. It's going to be a new feed, I think, because things need to be migrated over. It's very technical. I won't get into it. But search for, obviously, Fight Talk again next week at some point.
Yeah.
And you should find it.
Yeah, we'll
tweet. Check us out on Facebook.
Yeah,
like Facebook page. And
Facebook and Twitter and all. We'll do all that. But it's been a run, obviously. Fight Talk, 125 episodes. It started off in South William Street for the early hipster OFT fans.
Yeah.
It started in a drug den in South William Street. What was the name of that boozer? It was above.
Grogan's.
Above
Grogan's in town.
Radiomade.ie.
Brilliant stuff.
That's where we started. The funny story about the very first episode was we didn't think we were live, and when I got home, my missus said I listened to that, and I just thought she was being a supportive partner, Sean. And I was like, no, you fucking didn't. It wasn't. It was on. It was live. Oh, fuck, we were live.
I'm pretty sure she said something that you said, and you're like, oh, well, you know, she wouldn't have known that if she wasn't listening.
Unless she was Anton taking a delivery. But we then moved to the Whiskey Fair in Dunleary.
That was some crack, wasn't it?
Awful. Setting up the... No, it was great. The Whiskey Fair allowed us to do it. But it was an awful... Remember the week we turned up and there was male strippers the night before? And the stage was just covered everywhere in oil.
Yeah.
And sitting down in your chair, slipping off the side of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
madness.
Then you'd be halfway through a podcast and a band would start downstairs and you just hear it in the background.
Rebel songs in the background while the lads are talking about whatever.
And that closed down, just
and
like
then
Radio
that closed
Med.
down. And then we found this place where it's always been since we started.
Yeah, we just never thought of it.
But yeah, we've been to some great times and obviously Fight Talk on this channel. More times, great times are going to be ahead on MMA On Point, obviously Fight Talk podcast. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for listening to us, and I hope you join us next week and move with us. We appreciate all the support. It's the fans and the listeners and the shares and all the live chats and all that gets us to get noticed essentially by MMA On Point. That's how it came about, by people sharing it. So we're grateful to each and every one of our listeners.
It makes sense as well. We won't go too long in this podcast, but on Thursday I'll probably have Jason on so we can kind of discuss the move a little bit and explain why we done it.
Yeah, all right. Take me out of that conversation. That's fine.
We'll record a little video of you. Unless you want to jump on.
No. Very busy, man. But it's been great. It's been obviously Fight Talk on the obviously Fight Talk YouTube channel. We're going to be joined.
Don't subscribe. We're still here.
We are still here.
But
go and subscribe onto along with the other 237,000 subscribers on MMA On Point. Go and give them the OFT love and go and share there and save there and start sharing that. And tune in next week. Things are going to be looking different.
Yes.
Going to have a little bit of different equipment, to be different graphics. Sean might even be on camera. You won't just hear the allure of that beautiful Cavan accent. Yeah, so Sean was here for what? 1.5 episodes. He was here last week. He's got his own mic this week.
Where's the half episode come from? 2 episodes.
Well, last week and I pointed the mic at him.
All right, yeah. All right, yeah.
Yeah, so Sean.
Talk about the great Joe Brolly.
Oh, yeah. The great Joe Brolly.
Yeah.
Sean's an expert in GAA, so we'll be bringing...
not really. Yeah, you're just from the country.
No.
Yeah.
Rob's generalising a bit.
League of Ireland.
I'm being a racist over here.
Yeah, a League of Ireland football man.
Oh, that's what it was.
He's a Dundalk fan. He likes the
people
boxing.
don't know what GAA is.
You two can talk about boxing, because I don't talk about it that much.
I don't know shit about boxing.
I don't really. Unless you're talking about the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
No showing his age now.
Yeah.
I'm 38 this week, lads. But yeah, thank you.
Where's the birthday?
That's past. I'll be 38 next week, folks. When we're listening to me, I'll be in it Friday. But
presents.
Again, we're really dragging this one out.
Yeah.
But we appreciate everything that everybody's done. From it's gonna be weird opening the show next week. It's gonna be like, this is Nolan and Rob from MMA On Point.
Yeah. We signed on for American accents, so we have to do them. So next week, get ready.
But yeah, big thank you to everybody tuning in. This isn't the end. This is only the beginning. But it could be the end if you don't go subscribe to MMA On Point. You're like, where are the lads? They used to be here every fucking Tuesday. They're not here. We're on MMA on point.
Same time.
I've said it a good few
Same
times.
bad channel.
Same. No, not the same
different
bad channel.
channel.
You're really getting all these expressions.
Same bad time.
Yeah. So basically what Rob is saying in English is we're going to be... The show will come out at the same time, but it won't be on, obviously, Fight Talk. It'll be on MMA on point.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Stop trying to confuse people.
Sorry.
But for 125, the emotional end is nigh. Thank you. Peace.